In this video, we're going to check out 10 really fantastic storage racks for stand-up paddleboards and kayaks. And these were all shared in the MakerPipe community, and they're all made with off-the-shelf EMT electrical conduit and clamps that you can find at makerpipe.com. And today we're just going to highlight some ideas and different techniques that are incorporated into these builds. So if you're looking to build a custom rack just like these, then you can get some inspiration for your projects. And this first one comes from Ed and Lucy, and this is fantastic. This is a really simple one that really highlights the use case of EMT conduit for something like this, and that's the fact that this is built on a hill, and that means that it's going to have varying dimensions, and you can customize the dimensions of EMT conduit really easily utilizing just a handheld rotating pipe and tube cutter. And so Ed and Lucy just basically built these verticals to be different heights based on the hill there. And you can see here that it's a pretty simple design. It's just the 4 verticals going up, and then they use the MakerPipe 90-degree connector in the corners, which is what you'll often see used for cubes like this. And essentially, because the EMT conduit verticals can run continuously through the connectors, you've got those verticals running through on all 4 sides, and then you've got the 2 other pieces of conduit coming out of the 90-degree connector, and they just terminate and go to the other side. And you don't have to do any welding or drilling with the EMT conduit, and that's because the 2 pieces clamp. Well, I guess all the MakerPipe connectors, not just the 90, but in this case, the 2 pieces for the 90 clamp together, and there's a space that allows the nut and bolt to run through, so you don't have to do any drilling or any welding, and they just rely on friction. But essentially, it's just those 8 90-degree connectors, and that is how you put together this simple frame. And then essentially, it's just 2 tiers. We can see I got a couple of stand-up paddle boards on there, and Lucy is testing it out and sitting on top of the frame, and just looks like it's working out great and is a fantastic project. So thanks so much for sharing that, guys. Love seeing it. Next up is a really unique idea, and this comes from Michael, who did a really nice write-up that you can check out if you want to learn exactly how to make this. But it's pretty simple overall. It just utilizes adjustable angle flanges and MakerPipe T connectors to make these triangular racks that allow the kayaks to just sit against the wall and kind of stow away really nice and easy. As we can see here, they added some of the pipe insulation, which works really well to protect things that are touching the EMT conduit. So we can see here on this frame, here it is in place with the kayak kind of leaning up against it, and it's just a really great solution, really simple, but gets the job done and keeps the kayaks out of the way. So that's really cool. Like I said, check out that write-up if you want to see exactly how to make this. Next up is a really fantastic idea from Paul, and this is cool because this one utilizes a hack that we did a dedicated video for, which is the fact that this can hinge up and out of the way. So we can see here, the kayaks are stored underneath on a couple pieces of wood that are attached on the backside of the shed, but then he's using an EMT conduit cover, a frame to cover the kayaks, as we can see here. It's incorporating some MakerPipe T connectors, got some nice bins in there, and then some tarps secured to the frame, and then he's got the eye hook secured to the wood on the backside of the shed, and that's how this thing is made to hinge up and out of the way. And it's a really cool idea, and it's just a really fantastic frame to protect the kayaks. So really cool, Paul. Thanks so much for sharing this. Next up is a similar rack to the first one that we looked at. This one is also 2-tiered and also utilizes the MakerPipe 90-degree connectors. This one's just a little bit different because we can see here that it has a base mounted to the framework, and these are just a couple pieces of wood, and he's using the MakerPipe flanges to secure the verticals that are extending down to the ground, and then he's using the 4 screws through the mounting holes in the flange to secure those verticals there, and just gives this a nice footprint so you don't have to worry about the verticals sinking farther into the ground. And then you can move this around really easily. I imagine those 2 pieces of wood kind of act as sleds if you need to move this around. We can also see this one has some additional bracing, just some 45-degree connectors just to add some bracing between the vertical uprights and the horizontal pieces that are supporting the kayaks. That's a really good idea. You want these to be as strong as possible. Obviously, you don't want to damage your kayaks. So that's really cool. Really great idea from Keith. Thanks so much for sharing this. Next up is a cool idea from Chris, and this is a stowaway paddleboard rack, and essentially it just has these 2 verticals, as we can see here, that are basically just resting on the cement slab at the bottom here, as you can see, and then these verticals are extending up and then secured to the wall. I think he said he used just normal EMT conduit electrical hanger straps to just secure these in a couple places, but essentially he's just utilizing the MakerPipe T connectors to add some shelves that are coming off of here. He's got some gear hanging off, and then he's also got a 45-degree connector there, and he's got the stand-up paddleboard on top of the 2 pipes up there. he's got some other gear hanging off and just kind of resting on the rest of the frame. What's really cool about this is if we look at it, whenever he takes the paddleboard off of there, he can actually rotate and just kind of spin these around. And that just is because of the one-hole strap. It's kind of securing it in place, but also, with enough force, you can rotate these, and so everything just kind of rotates flat against the wall. So that's a really cool idea and a good thing to keep these out of the way and get it up, and you can get the paddleboard out of the way, but also get the rack out of the way whenever you want to. So really cool and a great idea. So thanks so much, Chris, for sharing it. Next up is a really cool rolling dual kayak rack from Nick, and this was shared a while ago. And similar to some of the other builds we've seen, it's just a standard cube that utilizes 90-degree connectors in the corners. But this one is a bit different because it has these really cool things on top, where he essentially added these runners from one side to the other, as we can see here, just utilizing MakerPipe T connectors and then 90-degree connectors there to add these long pieces of conduit that are extending from one side to the other. And then we can see, of course, the foam insulation on there, which, like I said, is a really important hack to keep in mind to protect your kayaks. But essentially, on the top and bottom are these two runners, and those, as we can see in this image, will allow the kayaks to sit on top really nicely. And because this frame has wheels on the bottom, he can roll the rack in and out of his garage, and really has a lot of possibilities with storing these kayaks and keeping them out of the way. And also if he needs to bring them out and add some gear to them, work on them, looks like he's doing a lot of fishing and stuff, so he's got some different materials and things that he needs to constantly change. This makes it really easy to get those out of the way and move them around really easily. So that's really cool and just an awesome idea, and a lot of cool photos here. So thanks so much for sharing this. Next up is a build from Peter, and this is really cool. This is kind of a really unique design compared to the other ones that we've looked at so far. Essentially just has two vertical uprights, on each side that are attached to the fence. Looks like he's using a 90-degree connector and then just left one of the pipes out. We don't typically recommend doing that. You want to use all the connections or, all the pieces of conduit to make the connection secure. But it looks like he's using that as kind of a spacer between the fence and the rack. But essentially those two verticals have the two horizontal pieces between them to kind of make this two-dimensional rectangle. And then the very bottom of the frame has these two pieces of conduit that are just running and extending out of the front, and those are just kind of supporting all the kayaks and the weight of the kayaks. And then essentially he just used a combination of MakerPipe T connectors and MakerPipe 45-degree connectors, as well as a handheld tubing bender to add these pieces of conduit that are extending out and then up there. And these are what is actually supporting the kayaks on both sides. So it's just that same design 6 times to make a total of 3 shelves. And we can go through here and actually see the kayaks in place, and it's working really fantastic. And it's just a really great design. Here's some photos or a photo of the different details if you want to see exactly what connectors were used, as well as the dimensions. You can find a link to this project and all of them down in the description if you want to check out any of these specific details. This is a really cool idea from Peter, and we appreciate you sharing it. Next up is a similar rack that was built by Rick, and it's pretty similar overall because it's kind of the same design that holds 3 kayaks, except it's got 6 on there because it's 2 back to back, and they're secured with the MakerPipe crossover clamp, as we can see there. So it's just 2 of those 2-dimensional rectangles with the legs at the bottom. Instead of using connectors, he used a handheld tubing bender, which is a good thing to do if you've got one on hand and you want to save some money on connectors. And then we can see this bent piece of conduit that goes between the 2 racks and is secured in place with the crossover clamps, and that is what is supporting the kayaks on there. And we can see there's a total of 6 kayaks, and I think there might be even room for 2 more on top. And this is a really cool idea and kind of builds upon that previous idea that we looked at. If you've got a bunch of kayaks and you need to support them all and get them out of the way, this is a really good way to do that. So thanks so much, Rick, for sharing this. Next up is an idea from Craig, and this is a rack and has a built-in roof, which is really cool. Essentially pretty similar to what we've looked at. It's a lot of 90-degree connectors to make a big rectangle, and then he's using some T connectors to add these poles from front to back, and those are what's supporting the 3 different kayaks. And then essentially at the very top he added an angled roof, and essentially to do that he just had verticals that extend higher up in the back and then have a horizontal piece running from one side to the other, and then the short verticals in the front kind of create this angled roof, so rain and things will slide right off. Then it looks like he's just using some 1x2s, I think is what that is, and then some plywood and some metal roofing panels to make this really awesome structure, and it is getting the kayaks out of the way and also protecting them from the weather at the same time, which is really cool, and a great use of materials and a great combination of materials to make this really effective rack. So that's really awesome, Craig. Thanks so much for posting this. Next up is a cool idea that was shared by the Lakewood Sail and Paddle Club. Essentially, they made these really cool portable racks with EMT conduit and PVC. Essentially, it's just a long horizontal span of conduit that has 180-degree connectors as well as T connectors that basically just have these short verticals extending up off of the frame in a bunch of different places here we can see. So there's some T's, 180s, different things, and essentially just a short piece of conduit extending up, and then essentially just made these PVC kind of corrals for the kayaks and stand-up paddleboards that slide over the EMT conduit and allow you to put a bunch of these in a row and get them out of the way and kind of keep them elevated nicely, and they're kind of tipped over so you don't have to worry about rain getting stuck inside the kayaks. That's really cool, and these are really portable. As we can see, they've got them taken apart. Just slide those PVC panels off, and then you can put these in the back of an SUV. And of course, maker pipe and conduit is really portable anyway, because you just need a 5mm hex wrench to build and take apart connections, so you can make all kinds of custom and portable structures just like this. This is really cool. All these ideas are awesome. Hopefully they gave you some inspiration for your custom racks. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.